Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. If you're in class, I hope your classes are going well. If you're at work, I hope your work is going well. I hope everything is going well. Okay, I think this is much better, but today we're going to talk about James Charles. I feel like public opinion on James has shifted a lot in the past year, and I want to discuss kind of why that is, because he's been getting himself into some antics lately. I want to preface this by saying I don't hate James Charles. I don't want there to be any hate sent towards James Charles. There are things that I like about him. There are things that I don't like about him. Basically, this isn't intended to send any hate. I just want him to take accountability. Yes, he is young, he is extremely successful, but he has influence over so many people, millions of people, mostly children. Since his audience is made up of kids, I feel like it's inappropriate for him to be acting publicly the way he is. At some point, I feel like there's a cutoff between childish stupid behavior and adult stupid behavior. And I feel like we, as a community, need to stop giving James an out, given the platform he has. There are videos of him partying without a mask in close quarters with 50 other people. He's doing collabs left and right. The problem is he's happy to show his viewers everything he's doing, even though it's unsafe. He put up a vlog a while ago, a day in the life of James Charles, where he put in a message about why he cut out footage from the party he attended. He was telling everyone to social distance and wear masks, and he said explicitly, "I recognize that my platform comes with responsibility, and I encourage you to be smarter than I was." So that's basically the old do as I say, not as I do. To say I take responsibility, I encourage you to act differently from me, that doesn't really give him a cop-out. The damage has already been done. Your fans have seen you going out and partying, and they think it's okay and they think it's safe because you're their role model. You're doing it, so it's just fine. Obviously, it's great that James has managed to stay healthy throughout this whole thing. I'm happy about that. I'm happy he has access to such great healthcare, but his audience might not. They can't just go out the way he does. Not everyone has access to the same healthcare that James Charles does, especially if they are part of a group that might not receive the same healthcare because they're part of a minority group or because of bias in the medical field. That in itself upsets me greatly. God, like it grinds my gears. It disgusts me because when you become a doctor, you take an oath to uphold these ethical tenets, and by doing that, by giving preferential treatment to other patients, that violates those tenets. But anyways, this behavior from James really upsets me because there is zero excuse to go out and party right now. So he knew it was unsafe. He went anyway. He showed that to his audience, his very large audience. He even acknowledges that his platform comes with responsibility. I have no doubt that he knows how big a deal he is, how influential he is, and he's known this for a while. So knowing how influential he is, he went out and he partied anyway. The fact that he displayed this behavior to his audience is in itself mind-boggling to me because it's so dangerous right now to go out without a mask. It is totally irresponsible of him, a person who definitely is informed, who definitely knows the dangers, to exhibit this kind of behavior. And then he tries to apologize his way out of it, and he says hypocritical things like do as I say, not as I do. Influencers and James who are going out right now, anyone who's going out right now, honestly, we get it. You're bored of pandemic. But the thing is, we're all kind of bored of pandemic. The thing that really got me back when he put out this video, back when he put out this statement, when everyone was talking about what James was doing when he was partying, what really got me was the excuse that, oh, he's just a kid. This is an argument I hear over and over when it comes to James Charles, but I don't agree with this characterization because he's not a kid, he's 21. After a while, it just becomes an excuse, and obviously when you're young, you do dumb things. I was young once. This partying during a literal global disaster and some more recent events have really got me thinking about why this excuse is used for James, and can he even be excused at this point at 21 years old? So some of you have heard, many of you have probably heard of H3H3 Productions. H3H3 Productions. H3H3 is made up of a duo, a husband and wife, Ethan and Hila. And Hila created a clothing label called Teddy Fresh. It is separate from their YouTube channel. It's a completely separate venture. It's just something that she wanted to do. Their color block sweatshirts have a very specific design, and recently James Charles came out with new merch and it looks pretty similar. Down to the color placement, even the hood, the drawstrings, the cuffs, it's the same as Teddy Fresh. Ethan addressed James on Twitter about this, saying that, oh, you know, Teddy Fresh did invent color blocking, but he just couldn't ignore how similar the two designs were. Ethan and James had a conversation about it in Twitter, the direct messages. I'm old, it's fine. But Ethan ended up releasing those DMs because he really wasn't happy with how James responded to him. I'll put them up on the screen for you guys to read because they're honestly embarrassing. They're very embarrassing for James. James essentially says, oh, well, I guess they are similar, but there's nothing I can do. What stands out to me about those messages and about what Ethan said is that James has such a large following that if he comes out with merch like this, his audience may get the impression that Teddy Fresh copied James Charles's merch. In reality, they've been around since like 2016, 2017. They're a much more established brand, and they're actually quite popular. I see that sweatshirt a lot on TikTok. But then James goes on to say, I don't even know why he admits this, but he goes on to say that the sweatshirt idea was supposed to be inspired by Nike and not Teddy Fresh. Okay, so I guess he's trying to steal from Nike, my mistake. In the DMs that Ethan released, James just continues to double down on everything he's saying. To me, an outsider who's reading these DMs, they do come off as combative, they do come off as dismissive, and mostly they come across as disrespectful. James says over and over, I've never heard of Teddy Fresh, I've never seen this design, but look at the similarity. Not only is this one of the most popular items from the Teddy Fresh label, but James has friends who wear Teddy Fresh. There's a TikTok where he's dancing around with a friend of his who's literally wearing that same sweatshirt. As I said towards the beginning of the video, I feel like my opinion of James Charles has gone back and forth a lot within the past year. I think after Dramageddon 2, when he was accused of so much shit, and he came out with his apology video and his truthful video, No More Lies, people realized that they were really quick to judge him. And I think since then, people have been a little bit easier on him. I don't want to downplay what James went through during Dramageddon 2. I can't even imagine how terrible he must have felt, how upset he was, how devastating that was. I don't want to downplay his experience, but I also can't downplay the mistakes he makes both deliberately and accidentally, and I can't blame them on him just being young. The problem with saying James is just a kid, James is young, is that it gives him an out. It gives him an excuse to continue his behavior. He can continue acting the way he is without any sort of consequence or having to take any sort of responsibility. We also literally cannot keep saying that James is a kid because he's 21. He owns a home. He has a career. He can legally buy alcohol. He's young, but he's not a child. He shows that he has complete control over his decisions, both good and bad. I mean, look at his partying. He knows it's a bad decision. He knows it's unsafe, and he chooses to go out and do it anyway. That's an adult decision. An immature, dangerous decision, but an adult one nonetheless. The partying, the dismissive way he talked about Teddy Fresh. I mean, the way he threw his entire design team under the bus, you'd think he was the one driving the bus that hit them. Yeah, he literally says, I didn't copy you, but my design team might have. What kind of excuse is that? If it truly was his design team, then it's a lack of ethics and a lack of research and just all around laziness. But I also just have trouble believing that James had never seen the sweatshirt design. In response, Ethan retweeted James's reaction to finding out about how Wet n Wild duped his original Morphe palette. And while I think that's super petty and a little bit immature and also a little bit funny, I get Ethan's point. I get why he did that. James was really upset when he thought Wet n Wild was duping his palette, taking his work and using it as their own, but he has no problem doing that to Teddy Fresh. Even if James comes out with an apology for this, I don't know that it would be genuine. I don't know that I could believe that it's genuine. Just because he can't even say he's taking full responsibility, because if it was his design team, then he's not taking responsibility. If it wasn't his design team, then he lied to the entire internet and Ethan. He can't really win here, and honestly, the reason I wouldn't think that his apology is genuine is because of the way he spoke to Ethan in the DMs. It just showed no remorse. Earlier this year, I liked James Charles. I enjoyed his content. I liked him as a person. But now, after the partying behavior, after all the things he's done, I can't find myself supporting his behavior. This is really entitled and childish behavior that we, as a beauty community, keep promoting. We give him an inch and he takes a mile. It has to stop. And not just for James's sake, because he could get in a lot of trouble over this, like legally, but also for the sake of his very young, very impressionable audience. It just perpetuates this idea that if you're young, it's okay if you do stupid things. And on some level it is. But when you start putting other people in danger because you want to go out and party and you're sending that message to other people, that's ridiculous. It sends the message that you don't have to take accountability for your actions. And that's just wrong. Of course you have to take accountability. Obviously, James was young once. He was 16 when he started out on YouTube. The whole Ebola thing happened. Like, he was young. He did and said stupid things because he was young. But at some point, he has to take actual responsibility for what he's doing. He can't just say the words, I take full responsibility, and then let his fans excuse his behavior. Saying he's young, saying he's a kid, is no longer a valid excuse because he's not 16 anymore, he's 21. Guys, I'm 20. I'm gonna be 21 in a couple months. I know plenty of other people who are in their 20s or almost 20s. I see influencers who are promoting staying home and social distancing. So I know that it's possible not to make these mistakes. I say mistakes in quotes because it's really just selfish behavior. James's actions are not about age. It's about entitlement and hypocrisy. By James's logic, Wet n Wild was perfectly in the right to dupe his palette because he didn't create the rainbow. Oh, but I guess Teddy Fresh didn't invent color blocking. His outrage was conditional. His responses to Ethan didn't seem very empathetic or understanding at all. He was mad when it happened to him, but he can't show that same consideration for other people. James just doesn't get it, and we can't keep rewarding his behavior and continuing to let him exhibit it to his younger audience because it's going to affect them. If he doesn't face consequences for the things that he's done publicly that are very wrong, he is never going to change. He has this cycle of throwing tantrums and then apologizing, and then his fans back him up, and then everything goes away. It's a cycle. But James is not a child. He's a 21-year-old man, and the beauty community needs to start treating him as such. If he is old enough to be making these dangerous, self-destructive decisions, then he is old enough to take accountability for them. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much everything I have to say. I want to say again that I don't hate James Charles. I don't wish anything bad upon him. I don't want him to lose his platform or his career. I just think his behavior is unacceptable, and it worries me greatly that he's sending this message that entitlement is okay, that self-destructive decisions are okay, that immaturity and impulsivity are okay when they're not. Those are not going to benefit his audience in any way. Let me know how you guys feel about this. Leave a comment down below. We can chat about it. Even if you disagree with me, I want to hear your opinions. I care about your thoughts, and I'm always willing to hear things from a different point of view. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and please feel free to subscribe should you want to, should you feel inclined. I know I would love to have you. Thank you so much again for watching. I hope you're all having a great day, and I hope to see you back soon. Bye.